Welcome to the Living History Project. Tunku Tan Sri Imran, ibni Almarhum Tuanku Ja'afar, otherwise known as Uncle Pete, the People's Prince, a prince of all seasons, prince of sport, and Tunku Pete. So, Tunku, shall we kick off with your amazing story?
Sure, Bob.
You have been president of just about everything. Commonwealth Games, OCM, member of the IOC, running all sports under the sun, and businesses, and you're a family man, and I think we better start at the beginning. Your father was present at the births of five of his six children. You were the exception. Can you explain that for us?
Well, I asked my mother, and all she said was it was a Sunday afternoon, it was a lovely day, and your father was out playing cricket.
So you were born for cricket?
So that's what they all say. I was born for cricket and sport.
Right. What are your earliest recollections as a toddler? Because you spent that age in different parts of the world, didn't you?
Yes, I think very early on, a year after I was born probably, because my father had already gone for the first year at Nottingham University. We joined him for the second year, and it was the boat travel was the ones that I remembered. Stopping at all those wonderful ports like Suez, Colombo, I don't know where else, and little swimming pool, paddling pool on board. It was an interesting journey.
Well, you had a bit of a misadventure on board, didn't you? Can you tell us about that?
Well, we worked it out that as she was on the way back, I would have been too young to be toddling, to be in the toddling pool. So I think it was on the way back from the UK. But yeah, I found myself, lying at the bottom of the pool, and it was my elder sister that just dragged me up and I suppose saved my life.
You remember saying that you were amazed at these ports, at the teeming crowds of people and how different they were. Do you think that this had a lasting effect on how you look at people later in life?
Well, not really. I mean, not really, but I mean, it just showed that how different people were. Colombo people was totally different from the Suez people, totally different from the people that you meet in England.
Absolutely. So it's not a bad advantage to have, is it? But you went to school first in Malaysia, didn't you? Or Malaya, as it was then. And you were driven in an armored car. Can you?
Well, I was my very first school was in Ipoh, a Malay school, first year primary, and I walked to school. But when my father went to Tampin in Negeri Sembilan as a district officer, I think Tampin was quite rife with communist activity because it was during the emergency, the early part of the emergency, and so there was this armored car that took my brother and I to school. Hot as hell.
It wasn't a normal armored car, though, was it?
Oh no, it was like an armored car built up in some shop. It wasn't like an armored car which the troops come in. It was a saloon with very heavy metals around it and not very comfortable and very hot.
Well, happily, it didn't have to be used, did it? But how did you end up going to school in the oldest school in England, AD 597?
Well, in 1956, my father and a group of his colleagues in the Malaysian civil service decided that they wanted to be, right at the beginning of Malaysia's foreign service, when we needed diplomats for Merdeka, which is going to be in 1957. So he was in England doing his foreign service course, and so he decided that, where's a education that he would be most stable at would be a boarding school. And he had met one of his old friends from the Royal Welsh Fusiliers in Malaya, and who had been a gym master, I think, at the school, suggested the King's School Canterbury, and which happened to be the oldest school in the world.
And some of the traditions seem to date from AD 597 too, didn't they?
No, not really. But yeah, it's old.
What about the dress, the uniform?
Oh, the dress was very Edwardian, let me say, with pinstripe trousers and wing collar, black tie, black jacket, and a boater. And if you're going to town, you had to wear your boater and a black walking stick. We were like Disneyland characters, I think, going around town.
And you weren't supposed to wear the boater at too jaunty an angle, were you?
Oh, no. We juniors had to wear it straight. The jaunty ones, you had to be a school monitor before you could use it on the jauntily.
But you were a school monitor, though. You did become one, didn't you?
I did become one in my very last year, my very last term, in fact.
And you had a rather unique assignment as school monitor too, didn't you?
Yes, it was the funeral of Somerset Maugham, who was one of the old boys of the school. He had passed away. He'd had a miserable time at school, funnily enough. And if you read his novel, Of Human Bondage, it's basically autobiography. And he, although in the book he talks about a club foot, but actually at school and during his whole life, he had this very bad stammer and was bullied mercilessly because of his stammer. Nevertheless, he asked to be buried in the school grounds by only the headmaster and the school monitors present. So I was one of the lucky ones.
Well, in total contrast to Somerset Maugham, you had a very happy experience at school, didn't you?
I had a totally happy experience, and I don't think I have any unhappy experience which I can remember. Right from prep school, the junior school, which is in Milner Court, in a village called Sturry, about 2 miles away from Canterbury, it was the beautiful grounds and the beautiful fields, and we played all sorts of sport. And I really loved sport, everything from rugby to football to cricket. We played all those sports, and tennis.
As a foreign student in those days, it must have been a little bit tricky to integrate totally. Do you think sport helped you in that regard?
I think sport helped a lot. And I think that, we were in a society, in a school where, middle income and upper middle income people sent their children to, the boys to. And I think they were already, well behaved and respectful. And I think, everyone was very respectful of us. There were only 2 others who were foreigners at the prep school, and they were from Persia then, Iran. And they also, enjoyed, didn't have any hassles. So, but sport definitely helped. Sport, you became, one of the boys and, one of the heroes, and, the camaraderie in sport. And not only in sport, in things like the scouts and these type of activities were very, very good fun.
Your biggest problem seemed to be making your bed, wasn't it?
Initially, yes, I had the most awful effort at trying to, because when you're at home, you never made your own bed. So anyway, finally I learned about the hospital corner, which was carefully, showed us by our nurse or matron, and so now I know how to make a bed.
And she had a special name for you, didn't she?
Well, they because of two brothers, we were called Ja'afar 1 and Ja'afar 2. So my elder brother Bill, Tunku Tan, was called Ja'afar 1, and now it's Ja'afar 2. Anyway, well, they one little ditty that some of the boys you might call it now they would probably call it racist or everything, but we just all took it as fun. Was Ja'afar 1, Ja'afar 2 are the monkeys of the zoo. If there were a Ja'afar 3, he would be a chimpanzee. Was another.
I don't think that would survive today, anyway.
No, it wouldn't survive today at all.
I don't think anyone would ever say it rightly. But you mentioned different sports there, and we know that you were very good at squash and cricket, but you also weren't bad at tennis and almost made it to Junior Wimbledon.
Well, I was good. We were keen on tennis, and we had good coaching and nice weather in the summer. So we couldn't play cricket all the time because cricket was mainly at weekends, and there's a certain time for nets. So there was like other long evenings when there was no prep or you finish your prep where we would go out and just play tennis. And then we decided to, my partner and I, always doubles. Then we got into the junior, the school, prep school team, first team, first six, because there's always six, three doubles. And we played other schools, and we started, thinking that, okay, let's have some tournaments in the holidays, because we were enjoying it so much. And so and luckily my friend Neil Benedict, who didn't go to the senior school, he went to Eastbourne in the end, Eastbourne College. We fixed up a tournament in Roehampton. Now we didn't know that it was actually a qualifying tournament for Junior Wimbledon. But we entered it, and we got to the semi-final, and so we were one match away actually from qualifying for Junior Wimbledon. I think the two of the finalists go into Junior Wimbledon, and we had a good excuse for losing, because on the next court was young John Mills, the son of Sir John Mills, the actor, and his whole family was watching, including the beautiful Hayley Mills, who just made the movie Whistle Down the Wind. So that's our excuse for losing anyway. We didn't lose to him. We lost because he was playing on the next court.
Distracted by Hayley Mills.
Distracted by Hayley, yes.
At this point, you spent a lot of time in the UK. I mean, did you have any kind of identity crisis? Did you feel almost more British than Malaysian?
Not really. We just felt both. I mean, I know we enjoyed the British life, but we also, we fasted, not during school time, but we went home, and if it was Ramadan, we would fast, and we'd eat. When we went home for weekends, my mother would be cooking Malaysian food, not necessarily British food. So we really adapted both ways. I think we didn't lose the Malaysian side or the Malayan side of us then. nor did we, sort of become ultra British and forget our roots.
You managed to support certain football teams and cricket teams, though, didn't you?
Oh yes, of course. Nottingham Forest and Spurs was my early one, but I gave that up after a while for Arsenal because my dad was Arsenal, and it was the cricket. Always the West Indies. I loved the way they were playing.
And besides having a good life there, you did some adventurous traveling, didn't you? Your parents were rather adventurous. Can you tell us a bit about those trips you did?
Well, there were one or two. The first really big one was when, in 1957. So that made me 9 years old and my brother 10. We had to relocate from. This is in summer holidays, from having been at the Merdeka celebrations with my grandfather being the king, to meet my father, who had gone to Washington ahead of time to open up the office, the embassy in Washington, and then on to New York to open up the the UN office for Malaysia in New York. So we and three families, all mothers, and their brood, went across around the world from Singapore to Hong Kong. And on the way to Singapore, more drama, we had a car accident where our poor driver, Pak Hitam, killed someone on a bicycle. So we had to, they sent another car up from Singapore, from Seremban, I'm not quite sure which. And we went down to Singapore, managed to take the plane with the other families, and they were very famous families in the end. One was the family of Dr. Ismail, who became the Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia from Johor. And the other one was Tan Sri Ismail Ali, the sister of Siti Hasmal, the brother-in-law of Mahathir, their family. So and my mother. So we all went to Hong Kong, and it wasn't just very quick flights. I mean, we took time to do a bit of sightseeing. So it was Hong Kong, Tokyo, then Wake Island, Honolulu, San Francisco, and then finally Washington.
And what about the African trips?
That was my father was a high commissioner in Nigeria. This is when I was much older, almost 10 years after that particular trip around the world. And it was about 1966, 67. And when he was High Commissioner in Nigeria, living in Lagos, and also accredited to Ghana, and had been to Accra before, but decided this time to drive, with me, because I had this gap year between school and university, so I stayed with them in Lagos, and we went with the driver, myself, my mother, father, to two other countries, French-speaking countries. One was Dahomey, which I don't know what it's called now, Burkina or one of them, I don't know, Benin, and the other one was Togo. So anyway, we drove through what was fine for us, but apparently it was very, very dangerous. It could have been a very dangerous ride.
With no security?
No, just a car on its own.
A silver Buick, wasn't it?
It was, I think, I'm not sure it was silver, but it was, I think, a Buick, black, I think.
And you managed to brush up on your squash a bit too on another trip, didn't you?
That's when I had started squash at the secondary school, which is actually the King's School, Canterbury, because the junior school didn't have squash. the tennis helped, and the winters were cold, so squash was a good game to play, apart from the rugby, which is compulsory. And so I played a lot of squash, and enjoyed it very much. And then on some holidays, my father was ambassador in Egypt. This was before Nigeria, and I used to go on holiday, and I used to take a taxi down to the Heliopolis Club, where there were a lot of squash courts and a lot of people just hanging around, pros and people that swept the courts, etc. And you could get a game very easily against them, giving them a little bit of money. And so my normal person that I used to play wasn't there one day, and he asked me to play against this other guy who was obviously very good, and he taught me a lot of little things on court. And then afterwards, having come off, I said, "Who's that guy that I just played?" to my normal coach or partner, and he said, "That's Abu Talib, the world champion." So I was playing the world champion for what would be equivalent of sort of 50 cents or 1 ringgit.
Well, he taught you a few things, because you became national champion, didn't you? This is jumping ahead a bit, but we're on the subject of squash. Do you want to tell us how you became national champion?
I came back from, I spent a lot of squash playing at university. I did a lot of squash when I was 1 year as doing my bar finals at Gray's Inn, and I was in a hall of residence with other very good squash players. I came back, having got to a fairly good standard for Malaysia. It would have been good standard in England. I would have been sort of, on the edge of a countryside. I might not have even been in many counties. But anyway, it didn't matter. I came back, became the Lake Club convener. There were only 23 courts in the whole of Malaya. And then there was a little sort of squash community in Perak, in Penang, and a couple of courts, clubs in KL. We all got together and decided that why don't we form a national association for squash? So we did. I became its first president, and this was in 1972. And then in 1973, we started the first national championship. And I wasn't the number 1 seed. There were 4 other people, ostensibly better than me. And I won from number 5 seed. So, but in those days, it was really tough. You had to play 2 matches a day, not like now. You have 1 day rest. You play every day, but you have a lot of time to rest. So my semi-final was again Dato' Syed Mustafa, is Dato' now, and he was 2-0 up and 6-2 up, and I managed to beat him in about a match that lasted over 1.5 hours. I went up to the Istana to lie down and rest because it was very close to the club, and I didn't have any lunch. I just thought about my opponent who had won 3-0, Dato' Hud Saleh, who became a professor at the University Kebangsaan, UKM, and so I decided to play him exactly different, so different that he's used to my game, that I think he just got a shock when I came on and just blasted him off the court. Because normally I'm very much a touch person, a lot of drop shots, a lot of lobs, and my game tended to be much longer. But this time I wiped him off the floor in about 20 minutes, 3-0.
So you were national champion. Was that the pinnacle of your playing career?
That was it. That was the pinnacle of my playing career, yeah, the squash. The first national squash champion. And after that, all the others started winning, and then the younger people started coming through.
But by then you'd got into running the sport, hadn't you?
Well, in that meeting, I was selected as a secretary. Not that I'd started convened the meeting, and of course we selected a few presidents and vice presidents. I didn't want to be, because they're sort of far more august names that you could put. And then suddenly there was only one position left, secretary. I was thinking to myself, oh my God, I'm going to be left out of this organization. So one of my friends said, oh, I think Pete should be secretary. Yes, they all applauded. So I became the first secretary and stayed on for about 5 years, and I took over as president. But we grew squash from 23 courts in 1972. By the 1980, there were 400 courts in the country. By 85, there were 700 courts. So the growth was phenomenal.
But you do put down your knowledge, you give credit to the university.
Nottingham.
Well, it was run there, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there, and it taught me a few things about how you run organizations. It was none of the staff, university staff, got involved at all. You had the courts, and then the squash club were in charge of the court. So we were in charge of getting the bulbs repaired or whatever it is. Okay, we went to the authorities, but then we said that the bulbs are off, and then they changed them. But when I became the secretary, it was amazing, because the secretary that was leaving, because he'd already graduated, gave me the whole of the next year's what I had to do, all in a template. All the matches were all confirmed for the next year. We were in the Division 2 of the Nottinghamshire League. We were in the UAE, which is the National Universities Championships. It was all there. The dates were all there. Amazing. And cricket was the same. I played a lot of cricket for Nottingham as well. So I realized that it's a do-it-yourself world in England. There's nothing about spoon feeding, nothing about waiting for cash to come into your lap. You all had to do everything yourself. So, and I brought that to Malaysia, hopefully.
The seeds for your administration career were really sown at the university then, weren't they?
Yes, I think I probably did more sport than exams, I think, or work.
Well, you got a degree in law.
Yes. I think I found shortcuts in law. I think a lot of people, and even lawyers today, will probably have realized how to take a shortcut in law. When you are, you don't have to read, 50 pages of a case, for instance, for precedent. You just decide where the judgment is, the relevant facts, and where the judgment is, and you've got it all. Other kids were going through the page by page. I'd already done it. I went up to the squash court or the bar or somewhere.
So you never wanted to be a lawyer?
Not really. That wasn't my. I did law because it was the subject which my father had done, and it was a subject that you all started on the same footing. There's no law, for instance, at sixth form. At school, so you didn't have a disadvantage, to anyone. So we all started on the same footing, and I think a good knowledge of English, and for me, the fact that I had done Latin at King's Canterbury was also a godsend. I mean, that helped a lot.
You did French and German at school as well,
Yes.
and I don't think your mother was too impressed by your choice.
Yes. I went back and very proudly said, I've just chosen English, French, and German for my A-levels, Ma. And she turned to me, what? What are you going to be? A tourist guide or a lecturer? Too late. She said, go on, change it to something else. No, it's too late.
Well, French and German came in handy, didn't they, later on in life?
Oh, yes.
You managed to enjoy yourself at pretty much every stage of life, it seems. So, when did you realize that you actually, despite being a royal, you had to go out and work for a living?
I mean, I didn't get very much allowances from my parents, even when I was at university, because just another student's allowance, and at holidays, it was just a little for us to just get along. So I did a little bit of business. My room partner at Nottingham, looked after the bar on Sunday nights, which is normally closed, but we opened it for for the college. And then on the Saturday before, we had gone off to buy buns and some beautiful cheese, blue cheese from Cheshire, just next door, or Leicestershire, and Colston Bassett was one down in Leicestershire. And it was very popular, and that was my first business. Selling buns behind the bar.
Well, it didn't seem as if you had a clear path until, and it took the Prime Minister at the time to decide your career for you.
Well, Bob, let me say, I was wanting to have a nice long holiday. This is having, called to the bar in early July. It was back in July. I thought I was going to have at least a few months of actually visiting the rest of Malaysia then, because we were already in Malaysia, just to see the place and get used to a country I had been away from for such a long time. So I wasn't in a hurry to get a job. So, but we were on holiday in the Cameron Highlands. It's a family holiday. My father's best friends with Tun Razak, the second Prime Minister, who they were at boarding school, Malay College together, and they were in London together, exactly the same age, and love sports together. And so they're playing golf, and after the golf, he asked me, Pete, what are you going to do now? And I said, I think I'm thinking of joining the Foreign Service, like my elder brother Bill, and my father. He said, no, the two of you in the Foreign Service would be too much for the service to handle. So he said, you're joining Pernas. So I didn't think, okay, I didn't even know what Pernas was. I said, okay. And then so I went back to Seremban. On the 2nd of August, I got a call from Tunku Imran, who's chairman of Pernas, Perbadanan Nasional Berhad, the national corporation owned by government. And he said, where are you? I said, I'm in Seremban. Well, you are here. The PM said you were supposed to be here yesterday. So why aren't you? I didn't know. And well, you better come tomorrow. If not, you don't have a job. So I quickly told my mum and pa that I got this job. And they said, excellent. So the next thing I know, next morning, I was there walking through the Pernas front doors.
Well, it didn't work out too badly, did it?
It's a great, starting. It wasn't. I wouldn't see the baptism of I don't know. It's certainly not a baptism of fire, whatever the opposite is.
And you had a lucky encounter with someone quite early on in the piece, didn't you?
Okay,
On the
yes.
lift.
Yes, I always used to. I parked in the ground, in the basement car park. This is at the old Bank Bumiputra building, and Tunku Razali's office. It was right at the top. He was also chairman of Bank Bumiputra at the time, and so I'm at the third floor. The door opens, and Tunku Razali and a gentleman, they're both in suits, are there. So I said, okay, no, come in, Pete, come in. So, can I introduce you to Sultan Hamengkubuwono IX, the Vice President of Indonesia? So I said, hello, sir. So it obviously wasn't a very long conversation because they're getting out of the ground floor to go off in their chauffeur-driven car for lunch. So I went down to my usual lunch, which is at the Selangor Club, came back after lunch, and then I had a note, see my boss, Wan Hamid, who's the general manager of Pernas, saying, come to his office. So I went to his office. He says, so what have you been doing today? I said, nothing, as usual. Yeah, and then, so, you're going to Indonesia? And I said, I'm going to Indonesia? Yes, chairman said so. And so really, yes, you're gonna leaving by the end of the week. Oh my God, okay. So I had to organize all that. And then later on I found out that in that lift, up in the boardroom, Tunku Razali had promised Sultan Hamengkubuwono that Pernas would open up a representative office of Pernas in Jakarta. And then going down, when he met me, he had said, and who will you send to Jakarta? And Tunku Razali said, yep, what about that young man? Oh, he's fine. He's a good family. That's great. Yeah, I think he'd be perfect. So that's how I found myself in Jakarta.
Well, Jakarta was a bit of a dangerous place in those days, wasn't it?
Oh, you're thinking of the Year of Living Dangerously by
Yeah.
Mel Gibson. I think, yes, a few years before I arrived, about 2 or 3 years before I arrived, there had been this terrible, event where, the generals had been, all landed up in a well, all murdered. And then the Indonesians were blaming the communist Chinese. And of course it wasn't the Chinese. They were just there, like as usual. Chinese, they're in the commerce. They weren't stoking up issues, and it was really an army thing. And so Sukarno had been toppled. So this was, after confrontation, if you remember. And President Suharto was then the president. So Jakarta was, still a turmoil of issues, but they had a great mayor called Ali Sadikin, who's a general, naval general, ex-naval general, and it is amazing. Some places of Jakarta was so poor. It was sad. Everything was done in a canal. It was really filthy. And then yet, a couple of kilometers later, you would be in this most marvelous area with big buildings, lovely big roads. And so it was a real dichotomy for a city. But he grew it, and he sorted out the poverty. So he built both housing for the poor and opened up areas where the developers could build houses for the middle income and rich. And that was the start of modern Jakarta. I think I was there right at the start of it.
But you didn't stay very long, did you?
Yeah, I think about 8 months. It was a non-job. I mean, actually, but I did try. I made a lot of contacts with the expatriate community. One of my friends at school, Englishman, was with the Hong Kong Bank in Hong Kong Shanghai Bank in Jakarta. So he introduced me to all his friends and all that expatriate community. There are British, Australians, Americans, Dutch, a whole lot, all more or less looking either just representative or they were looking for businesses, in the country, what opportunities. And some opportunities came up, but I sent them back to head office and said, is it right that we should be investing, 200 million, into Jakarta when, we surely as national corporations should be investing in, Penang and Sarawak or whatever, that's sort of under, doesn't have the money. And so they finally actually did agree, the board, and called me back. So I was the one and only Penas representative.
So you talked yourself out of a job, really?
I talked myself out of a job because of my conscience. I mean, and this is the the taxpayers, Malaysian taxpayers' money, and what the hell were we doing there? I mean, I enjoyed my time, by the way. I was having a really good time. I was playing rugby. I was in the hash. I was once a week bowling with the Malaysian embassy staff. I mean, it was. I had a good social life. I organized a lot of meetings during the day to meet people, but they were all they're all in the same boat, really. I mean, still looking, and many of them, not daring to really go forward. Some were, some went in for some big projects, but it was interesting. For me, it was a big eye opener. I mean, I didn't just stay in Jakarta either. I went off to Bandung by car and all sorts of Bogor, and drove around to see what the whole place was like.
But you were rewarded for the summary you wrote about it, weren't you?
Well, the Tan Sri Ismail Ali said, it was a very, very good memo that I wrote, and he agreed with it 100%. Well done. And they appointed me as the group company secretary for Pronas Group. So suddenly I was there sitting at board meetings with all the big business people in the land, from Tan Sri, from Said Nasir to H.M. Shah to a few others, Gaik Chong, all sitting around table being directors of Pronas, and there I am, a little 25-year-old, 26-year-old, taking all the minutes, and to be treated just like one of them, really. They didn't even care whether I was the secretary or whatever. I was one of them.
And it was some time after that you got another call from one of your former colleagues for another adventure.
Yes, another adventure. I got a call from Singapore, and it was a friend of mine called Jonathan Mervis, who was at this year I spent in London doing my bar finals. He was in a merchant bank called Slater Walker, and I made other friends as well, many other friends, from, they were in all sorts of different businesses or were learning different things. And he called me out of the blue from Singapore and said, "Pete, we want you to join us." I said, "Join who? Who's us?" And he said, Hopa Brothers International, Hopa, in Singapore. And I said, no, I can't really. I'm here, I just came back from Jakarta, and I've got a really good job here. Name what you want. So clever me or not clever me, I said double my salary. Yes, done. I thought he was very quick, agreeing on it. So I said, okay, home leave. Yep, done. And he thought Kuala Lumpur was home leave for me from Singapore. That wouldn't have been very expensive. I said, London first class on, okay, London first class for your home leave. So I got once a year, I got a first class airfare to London and back. So I could go to Lord's, I can do all the things I wanted to do.
Well, that was crucial in you becoming a leading administrator in world cricket, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was crucial in the sense that they just started the International Cricket Council then, although it was called the Commonwealth Cricket Council before that, and then they called it International. And there was this annual general meeting, and they needed people to represent them or Malaysia. And there's no, but they knew I went there every year, so they asked me to, and so I got to know all these people in cricket, Lord's, the long room at Lord's, and all these places.
A bit like this place, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. So Lord's is there.
Is that where you got the idea?
Not put it up here. No, this is just, we didn't know what to do with all these pictures. And as you can see, there's lots of things on the ground as well.
But you were playing still, very much so, weren't you, at the time? Let's not forget your actual playing career.
Oh, yes. I was still playing squash, cricket, golf, tennis, regularly at the time.
And you played cricket with some pretty famous players, didn't you?
Well, nationally, yes, because I was, amongst I was almost got into the national team. I was on the tour with Malaysia to Hong Kong, but I didn't make, the actual national team. But I can call myself an international tourist with the team, but I can't call myself an international at cricket. But because my father was the young di-Pertuan Besar, the ruler of Negeri Sembilan, he was also the patron of the Malaysian Cricket Association. So a lot of teams used to come, and they played against his team in Seremban, and inevitably I captained the team. He wanted me to captain the team. So I played a lot of cricket, not only for Negeri Sembilan, against other states, but also for my father's team against other international visiting teams. So I played against Derek Underwood, for instance, Chandrasekhar from India. Tony Gregg came, but he had a broken arm, so he couldn't play that year. Quite a lot of international players. And of course, in 1984, at the Selangor Club, because I had become the captain of Selangor Club by then, was 100 years old, 1984. So we had a centenary cricket match. And we invited Gary Sobers and Farouk Engineer. And Gary Sobers and I have been friends ever since, and Farouk. We put on 50 for the first wicket, 60 for the first wicket.
And you got more than he did?
At the time, yeah. When I was out at 40 for 41, 42, whatever it was, he was still only about 20. Yes, I'd outscored him. But in the end, he got a 68 or something.
Not bad for someone who was once dropped for scoring too slowly.
Yes, I was dropped at school. I was dropped for scoring too slowly. But one But I had a man who was about 3 times, huge man. A boy, actually at the age of 15, he was huge. Called Richard Draycott, and he just used to hit 4s and 6s. So all the coach used to say to me is just stay with him, because your result is the partnership, not necessarily what you score. It's the partnership score for the next wicket that is the most important. And that's what I did. After a while, he left, and I went on, the same thing, just scoring, and they dropped me for scoring too slowly. So next thing, I went down and scored faster in the second 11, and came back immediately. I got a 66, I think I remember, and came straight back. So proved them that I could score fast if I wanted to.
Well, you were a very busy man, it seems, playing squash, playing cricket, being a businessman. Really, how did you manage to juggle all these activities?
Well, bachelor. KL wasn't so huge then. There were no really traffic jams. I could get to work, 10 minutes, 15 minutes easily. All the clubs and everywhere where I used to eat or whatever were close by. And I had a schedule. Mondays normally was off day. Then this is after work, was squash, Tuesday squash, Wednesday squash, Thursday nets, Friday squash, Saturday golf, and Sunday cricket.
And it was the same in Singapore too, wasn't it?
Singapore, similar. When I was in Singapore, I joined the Singapore Cricket Club and played for the squash team as well as the cricket team.
But not everyone was happy about you going to Singapore, though, were they?
I tell you why. Tunku Tan Sri Imran was particularly upset, then Bank Negara chief, because he says, "Oh, you're joining a bunch of crooks. If you want a job in merchant banking, I can help you with, John Bear. I can ring up John Baring now, and Rothschilds. What do you want? Do you want to join Rothschilds?" And I said, "I made a promise, Tan Sri, and anyway, I told him, I can learn what not to do as what to do. Okay, but keep me informed." And so that was probably Hopa. Being in Hopa was really opened my eyes in what big corporate business on the stock exchange is all about. And I think they built even just by the time when I was there, 1 year or whatever, 1.5 years I was there. To this, they were huge. Even Lee Ka-shing was one of the people they brought up into business, which is now huge tycoon. They were big everywhere in Asia Pacific.
But Slater Walker got into a bit of trouble, didn't they? And
Well, what happened was, and this is probably the real story, they were too successful. And one of their areas of success had been in Malaysia. They'd taken over London Tin together with Pernas, my old company. They'd taken over Island and Peninsula. They had, they had been, and I was the person involved too, and finally they sent me over to start Hopa Malaysia. So I had an office, which is now Wisma Hapseng in Jalan P. Ramlee. And just one person, one secretary, just to look after the interests. So I was on the boards of all these Malaysian companies, about 7 tin companies, public companies, and about 3 or 4 plantation companies and other companies, and looking after the Hopa interest. Then Hopa, the State of Walker boys, the Brits, wanted to sell Hopa to Pranas. And I think Lee Kuan Yew couldn't take it. I mean, how can you, we Singapore, how can you sort of Guailus, you sell, Singapore's jewel, because by then it was by far the biggest company in Singapore, to a bunch of Malays, and owned by government no less. So he threw everything at the Seda Walker, tax frauds, everything, and investigations. And so eventually, they all started leaving one by one. And finally, the deputy chairman, Dick Tarling, landed up in jail. And finally, Donald Ogilvy Watson, who left quietly on a yacht into the Straits of Malacca, and then he finally landed, of course, in Scotland on his little island which he owned.
From that excitement in Singapore, then you ended up with little to do in the office in KL, and that's when you got the idea for the business, wasn't it? Your own business.
Yes. I was just representing Hopa then at all levels, and particularly all the board meetings of all the Hopa companies in Malaysia. I was the representative, and Mike Pham, who was the from FNN, who'd been put in by Lee Kuan Yew to be the chairman, the new chairman of the Hopa, and everyone had changed. All the CEOs and management had changed to Singaporeans. I said to him, I'm quite happy to offer my resignation if you want. No, please be there. You got to keep the peace and with Malaysia, and we're very happy to be there. And I said, but there's nothing to do, Mike. And he said, do what you like, Tunku, but just, look after our interests. And so I did what I wanted to do, was get into business of some sort. The timing was right when Standard Chartered Bank, then Clive Little, chief manager, offered me to buy the chartered bank insurance brokers, chartered insurance brokers. So that was my first investment, and I went to my father to borrow the money, 300,000 ringgit. I started the Syarikat Pusaka Anta, which is where you are now. And so we started the family company and with this investment. And we grew one by one. And finally we thought that having brought in one or two other of my old friends who had also just retired, Mike Krishnan, just retired from ICI, Chemical Company of Malaysia, Tamrin Monet, just retired from Tractors Malaysia, Sime Darby, and others, Jerry Owen also from Tractors Malaysia. And so we decided that we needed an international partner, and it was Sime Darby initially, but then they said no. We already, they were too similar to them, and they were already looking at Pranas as their shareholder. And in the end, we went in with Jardine Matheson from Hong Kong, the Noble House, which was very, very fortunate because they had a huge array of businesses, which they introduced to us one by one. They brought in, they seconded even one of the, managers, senior managers as an executive director. And it was wonderful growth. I learned a lot from them. They gave a lot of assistance, and we didn't have to really think so much of what to do next, because they were there. They brought in one by one, 7-Eleven or Commercial Union, and then we brought it, Arab Malaysian Merchant Bank, which then became AmBank. So we had Pepsi Cola, oil and gas. We had so much. We grew so fast.
You're the first boomy company to launch on the stock
Yes,
exchange.
then we launched, having started it as Anta Holdings then. That was a joint venture company. Started off as a private company, and we decided that it would go public, and we were very successful IPO and an ongoing, success really on the stock market. Very popular, always quoted on the day's, stock news, because we were one of the ones that were highly traded and, going up and down. So it was an exciting time.
So it's all gone swimmingly so far, but then comes the first hiccup, the Asian financial crisis. Now, can you tell us how you dealt with that?
Well, what the opportunity I missed was the one that I really now, in hindsight, kicked myself. At the beginning of the financial crisis, or just before, I happened to be on a private aircraft going from Moscow to Kazan, also in Russia, with George Soros, the big investor. And he was, I was talking to him about his investments in Southeast Asia, and he says, I'm getting out of Thailand, he said, and probably Indonesia, because I think it overheated, and then, there's not much behind them, the money, the currency. So he started, selling, the Thai baht, which is the first, and the Indonesian, and finally Malaysia. But if I was sharp enough, and I must admit I wasn't sharp enough, I would have run up my group back home and told them, get out, George Soros is selling, let's get out. But I didn't realize how big a player he was, that he could actually move markets, but he did.
But even he didn't get it quite right, did he?
No, he also messed up a bit himself, yeah. But anyway, it was it was a bad time for us anyway, because it's just the businesses still went, but the share price of the holding company went right down. So therefore, the collaterals with the banks were all affected, and then of course the banks started wanting money back, so we started having to sell various companies. We sold Arab Malaysian, for instance, back to Tan Sri Azman. We sold 7-Eleven to Vincent Tan, and so we were, we had to do a lot of selling.
You sold some of the jewels then, didn't you?
Then we sold a lot of the jewels, yes. Because my philosophy was always that family first. Why get the whole family into problem with banks and everything else when we can sell these things, pay off the banks, and we'll still we're still alive, still above water, still got some companies still going. And that's where, in the end, we did go, sold off the Anta Holdings itself finally. And we just kept this family company with a small amount of investments, running like a federation of family companies, because each of my brothers and sisters would then operate out of here with their own private, whatever they were doing, and we would be the support group so all the accounting and all the secretarial will be covered by this company.
Well, I think it says a lot about your family, because this is the sort of thing that breaks up families, isn't it? Financial disaster.
Well, we are close, and I think they all understood. One or two may not have realized it then. In hindsight, they understood, and because the banks were involved with so many different losses, and the banks then were really desperate, and they would just be ruthless. They'd put people, into bankruptcy, without a single thought, and because they were just, and a lot of them were foreign banks as well. The foreign banks were just trying to cut loss and just, almost even thought, I think, about getting out of the country.
Mm. Well, this period, it wasn't all bad, though, was it? You did bring the Commonwealth Games to KL.
Yes, well, that would happen just before, during the good times. Commonwealth Games was 98. We got the bid, we put in our bid in for 92, and we changed the profile of the Commonwealth Games. Commonwealth Games before us was just 10 sports, of which swimming and athletics were the two core sports, and there were 8 other individual sports only, no team sports. When we brought it in, we brought in rugby sevens, we brought in cricket, we brought in hockey, we brought in squash, we brought in netball, and we brought in 10-pin bowling. The only one that didn't survive was 10-pin bowling. The others are all still part of the Commonwealth Games, although cricket never came back into the Commonwealth Games until 2022 in Birmingham, and squash and cricket will be in LA Olympics in 2028.
I mean, in order to, I say you brought the Commonwealth Games, I mean, you had risen as an administrator by this time in squash, in cricket, and in Malaysia, in the Commonwealth and Olympic federations. So again, I ask you, how did you juggle? I mean, there are parallel lives going on here in 3 or 4 different sports, as well as your own business. I mean, it was quite an achievement too.
Well, okay. In squash, I had, my most productive time was as president of World Squash from 1989 to 96. So that was just before the Commonwealth Games. I had stepped down and handed it over to someone else. But by then I had already got squash into the Commonwealth Games. Cricket, I was ongoing right through, and I saw the cricket through it, and I was on the international cricket board, looking after as chairman of the associate countries, looking after the associates. It was after the Commonwealth Games, only in 2006 did I become an IOC member. But somehow I managed, still playing squash, still playing cricket, still playing golf. I just happened to just manage it all through timing, I suppose, and good time management, and not overstressing oneself. I think my management style was the same in sport as it is in business. It's all participative. It's consensus-driven, and I get other people involved in doing things. So it's not as if I'm doing everything. So that's what why for instance, in squash and in cricket, that it could happen, because I had so many other members of a team, and in business, in Anta Holdings, we were about 6 of us, all executive directors. We call ourselves the Anta Buck Stoppers, and each one had a group of companies which they would be responsible for. We met nearly every day almost, because we were all in the same building with doors next door to each other. We'd go out in the evening either to play golf or down to the bar to drink, and we were friends. At weekends we even met. So it was, and cricket and squash were the same. You know, everyone somehow was on the same wavelength, and I didn't have to, you know, do too much. And I learned a lot of these things I learned at Nottingham University. The KL area squash league had 94 teams in the KL area squash team. I can't think of any other sport in this country that has a league with 94 teams run by 2 people, myself and the secretary, Fasad Pillay. He's there with me up there somewhere, one of the photographs. And the interesting thing was that we hardly did anything, and the fax was the only way of communicating. So all we wanted to do from the home team, designated home team, was that they had to book the courts for their match, that they are responsible for putting in by the next day the results. So, you know, we planned the whole year, you know, 6 months of action, you know, looking at you know, public holidays and everything, so that we didn't clash, and it worked. Two men running, no money. I think Pepsi finally, 7-Up came in with 8,000 ringgit. That's it.
Well, as well as the team element in your career, you also seem to support the underdog. That comes across very clearly.
Yes.
Where does that come from?
I think that comes from watching the British crowing too much. or listening to British commentators. Bob, sorry, I'm not trying to be rude to you, but you know, I really, after a while, I got fed up with you know, some of the English or British commentators, you know, being a bit sometimes a bit condescending to some of the, you know, the newer sports, you know, teams that were coming on the scene. And I thought that, okay, I'm going to be definitely, you know, supporting underdogs. So, although I've been brought up in England, I claim I'm an ABE, anyone but England, and I'm an ABU, anyone but United.
Well, with these sentiments, you still managed to join the IOC, which was the pinnacle of your career.
Yeah, without a doubt, Bob. IOC, I was invited, I was nominated, and in 2006, I was very happy to, you know, become a member in Turin during the Winter Games there. And when I was 70, I had to resign. Everyone has to retire at the age of 70. And then because I'd been there for more than 10 years, they made me honorary IOC member, so that today I get all the perks without having to vote. That's all. I'm not allowed to do anything and get all the same perks as everyone else.
Well, I've spoken to a couple of people who feel that you could have gone for the presidency. You could have been literally the most powerful man in world sport if you played your cards differently.
I think because it's such a big international organization, I think you have to, there's a certain, you have to have a little bit of a political side of you in order to, if you're going to, win votes, etc., etc. I have never canvassed for a vote in my life for any position. Even when I stood for presidency of the Olympic Council of Malaysia in 1998, after the Commonwealth Games, everyone was so happy with the outcome, but they all said, well, it's time that there was a new broom into OCM, and because Tan Sri Hamza had been there for 26 years. So I was a bit reluctant to stand against, they all wanted me to stand, all the other members of the committee, to stand, because I was reluctant because he was such a good friend of the family, and another one of my father's best friends at Malay College. And so I did go to him, and I said, they've asked me to stand. He says, oh, I'm going to stand too. I don't think it's time for me to resign. So it looks like we're standing against each other. He said, yes, okay, may the best man win. I said, yes, and none of us lobbied, and I won. So immediately, first thing I said was, thank you, everyone. I'd like to propose, there's never been a position of this before, propose that we make Tan Sri Hamza honorary life president. So he was until he died, and was made a tun by the government. So it's it's something I never fought for, but I don't think I would have. I'm not sure I would have wanted to live in Lausanne, because you have to live in Lausanne.
Well, you didn't
And
like the cold.
secondly, I don't like the cold either.
You did try your hand at winter sports, though, on a couple of occasions, didn't you?
Yes, actually I was a regular skier, but my first time was when my friend, rang me when he was at Cambridge. I was at Oxford, and so it was an Easter holiday, and so we went off to a place called Fieberbrunn in Austria, and we were all beginners, most of us, except for him. We got better and better and better. And then on one occasion we were traveling on this path along in line with this instructor in front, saying, okay, slowly, slowly. I somehow slipped off the path, and I, landed in a tree. I mean, literally in a tree, because the tree was below the path, but I landed in the tree, and I couldn't get out of the tree. And everyone, stood around wondering. Even the instructor didn't know how to get me out of a tree, so you never had this to do before. And so, they had to take my skis off, they had to get me down slowly, and voila, I got off. My first skiing accident was landing in a tree, but I was safe. I certainly didn't do a Sonny Bono, if you remember.
Yeah. What about the bobsled?
It's called the Cresta Run. In San Moritz, there's this famous Cresta Run, which is basically a bobsled, where you get on your stomach, and you're on almost like a tray in this ditch, and you go down, at 100 miles an hour, whatever it is, down to the end. Well, for beginners, it's it's quite hairy, and particularly when you've had a late night and you're woken up early to go there, because the beginners have to start early, because the good ones come later. The gentlemen's are at about 11:30 or 12, and so they start. There's a guy with his arm out here in a cast with nails here, and which is great confidence, for someone who's just starting. And then he said, "How did you do that?" "Oh, I had an accident the other day on the bob, on the Cresta." Okay, well, we had to wear a helmet. We had to have special boots that had nails at the toes. So when you're lying down, you can dig in the nails at the toe. Of course, when I start, and it says we must go down slowly. All you need to do is keep your nails on the toes, and especially there's one really big corner called shuttlecock, where most people get thrown off. Be very careful, don't go fast. So I get down on my stomach, ready to go. Someone's holding the sled. Okay, go. Suddenly this helmet comes down over my eyes. I can't see a damn thing. So I'm busy, putting it up. Then I'm ready there, and I try and put my toes into the ice. Too late. I was already going so fast, it was bouncing up and down. It wouldn't even catch. So I just hung on to dear life. Then at shuttlecock, I remember I had two legs out, almost out of the drain. I call it the drain, the run. And one runner of the sled also out. I just pulled myself back in because I said I didn't want to throw up. And I landed on my side, hanging onto the sled, and went down like this all the way, praying like hell, because I thought I was going to, this is my, end. And, I got to do, and alhamdulillah, everything. And next thing I got is a prod. "Excuse me, sir, next man is trying to get down. Can you please get out?" No sympathy at all. Anyway, but there you are. I have been, right. And I became a fairly good skier, but never took any risks after that.
Well, okay, that must have been pretty embarrassing. But you had another embarrassing moment, didn't you, at the Commonwealth Games in front of a very famous person?
Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, the late Majesty. I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, the 2014 Commonwealth Games, I was the president of the Commonwealth Games Federation, and it was the baton. Now, the baton in the Commonwealth Games is just like the torch. It's carried around the world. But the baton is a speech which at Buckingham Palace the Queen puts in to a baton, and then it's screwed up, or it's locked up shut, and then it goes around to the 70 or so countries of the Commonwealth, going underwater, people jumping out of parachutes, so all sorts of things that they do. So finally it gets to Glasgow, and it's the time, for the handing over of the baton to the Queen for her to make her speech. And Sir Chris Hoy rounds up, the famous cyclist, big, Scottish icon, gives it to me, and then I'm supposed to open it, and then there's supposed to be a little mechanism that then you open, and it should be just click, and then I take the speech out and hand over. It just didn't click, and then Chris Hoy is trying to help, but he doesn't help. He keeps pushing me. Then finally I push him away. So, but in that process of pushing him away, the thing had gone click, and then I tried it again, click, it opened. All that took about a minute, I think, and the BBC commentators were saying, "What's this, a comedy act or something?" But anyway, she got it, and she read it, and afterwards, all she said later on, when on the way out, because after that she goes straight off to the car, "Oh, it was easier at Buckingham Palace, wasn't it?" That's when they put it in. That was
She was just one of many famous people that you met. Can you name one or two more for us?
Well, there's King Charles, the son. He is the one that pinned on me in Gold Coast, in an order, some Commonwealth order on my lapel. And as he stood sort of face to face, I said, "You don't remember me, do you?" He says, "Of course I remember you." He says, I've been dining out on you for years." No, he's a good egg, and the whole family are good. Edward, now the Duke of Edinburgh, he's the one that's vice patron of the Commonwealth Games. He comes to most meetings and all the games. He's a very nice person. What else? Australian Prime Ministers. There are quite a few Australian Prime Ministers, all having their own idiosyncrasies. I suppose
British Prime Ministers?
British Prime Ministers, well, John Major, definitely. Margaret Thatcher, yes. Another one. Margaret came here. I was the Vice President of Malaysia British Trade Association, and so she wanted to meet the Bemita people up in Carcosa, where the High Commission was. And so we arranged on the left side, and High Commission and his staff on the right side. Maggie is at the top of the table, and the first thing she does is she turns to me and says, "Oh, Tunku, I understand that we are from the same inn." I said, "I didn't know you were from Gray's Inn." "No, I'm from Lincoln's," and looked back at the poor High Commissioner, who was almost under the table by then. Anyway, we had a nice meeting. She's her typical self. John Major was here in Malaya during the time when I brought that chartered bank company. He was just an auditor, internal auditor for Standard Chartered here, for Chartered Bank here. And he was then meeting us in number 10 Downing Street, line of Commonwealth, and it was the Commonwealth people just meeting him, got some sort of reception. And I said to him, "Oh, yeah, you are in Malaya." "Yes, I was in Malaysia." "Malaysia, you were in Malaysia?" "Yes, I was in Malaysia." "Oh, you were under Clive Little, weren't you, at the Chartered Bank?" Says, "Oh, how clever of you to remember." And then shoved me aside and says, "Oh, who's next?" Didn't want to talk about it anymore.
What about presidents lobbying for the Olympic Games?
Well, probably the most famous is Putin, who in 2007 came to Guatemala to an IOC meeting, and he was bidding for Sochi, for the Winter Games in Sochi for 2014. And so he, met everyone, one-on-one, who was at this cocktail. He didn't speak publicly, only spoke in Russian. But I could see that when he went round, he was either very fluent at English and French. So he came to me and he said, "Oh, Malaysia, yes, I just met your Prime Minister, Badawi," he said, "your new Prime Minister Badawi. What a nice man." So I said, "Yes." And then he said, "But his predecessor, Dr. Mahathir, is a great man." So there you are. At least there's, Mahathir has an admirer.
What about family life? I mean, you've barely had time to have a shower between the changing room and the boardroom. You do have a family. How did you manage to fit in any romance?
It's all possible, Bob. It's all possible. I've had two families, actually. The first one was in 1987. I got married to Moira Rodrigo, from, her name's Mahira Abdullah. Then we have one son, Tunku Abdul Rahman Aminullah, better known as Tarrant, Tunku Tarrant. in 1988, and we drifted apart. In the 2000, and I met Nora Mazuki from Sarawak, part of the Tan Sri Abang Mazuki sort of family, very well-known Sarawak family. I've been very happy. No children from her, but she already had a boy and 2 girls, and between them they have 7 grandchildren. My own son Taryn only just got married last year. Oh, and then also Myra had another boy from her first marriage. So yeah, I have 2 from that side, as it were, my own and stepson, and then I have stepson and 2 stepdaughters and 7 grandchildren.
Well, having spoken to 1 or 2 of them, you seem to have taken to family life like a duck to water.
Yes, I love family life. I love people, basically. Family is fabulous because you go home to family and they're always there. And my friends are always there, and I know where to find them. So this club or that club or this restaurant or this bar or that bar or this, I mean, it's they're always available and there. It's this wonderful life I have.
Yeah, wonderful life. But even on a diplomatic passport, it wasn't always plain sailing, was it?
Diplomatic passport can be both a double-edged sword. Let's put it that way. I mean, you can bring the whole brood sail through the wind and out before other people have hardly got off the plane. That's one. The other one is they can stop you, for instance, if you in Houston. I was just going to Mexico, and I've been there before, but she said, sorry, on the list, Malaysians need a visa. I said, diplomatic passport to Mexico does not need a visa, but it doesn't say that, sir. You do not have a visa. So I said, can you look at my passport, see how many times I've been to Mexico in the last 3 years? And I've been a couple of times. Okay, so I didn't need a visa. So she said, well, I'm putting my whole career on this, so she gave me the boarding pass, and I said, don't worry, my dear. If you ever get into problem, give her my card, give me a ring, and I'll be the first to help you out. And then, I know you're going to ask, Bob, Japan. Japan is another thing. You go to Japan, and they are the most wonderful, polite people. One of the politest people you can think. But I didn't have a visa going to Japan because I was told by our embassy in Seoul I didn't need a visa but got there, sorry sir, and into a private room. You have a diplomatic passport, but you are not accredited diplomat. Why do you have a diplomatic passport? I said, because I'm a royal family. How I know this? So I said, YAM, Yang Amat Mulia, HRH. It's like, Tunku is Denka. Denka is prince yes. And then Ibni, I said, son of, like Ibn Saud, is Hai. Tuanku is like king, emperor, Hai, Ja'afar. How I know this is correct? Anyway, we went on and on and on. Took about 15, 20 minutes, the whole interview, all very polite. And then finally I said, look, do you know that my grandfather was the first king of Malaysia, and my father is going to be the 10th king of Malaysia? How I know this is correct? So I got out the ringgit note, 100 ringgit note. I showed it to him and says, that is my grandfather. So, sorry, sir, please, but please, can you put this right with the embassy? Yeah, I got through, but it took a bit of time. But they were terribly polite. I mean, I didn't really get angry at all.
Well, an amazing story, but I think there must be a bit of a tinge of regret in that you've done all this and you created the Sport Excel organization. But I have to ask, do you think Malaysia is a sporting nation?
Well, I think Malaysia does play at sport, but you know, in what people call a sporting nation, I don't think so. I think we play at sports. We're good at some sports, but you can't say that we are a sporting nation. Like you can say that Australia, New Zealand, yeah, USA are sporting nations, because until we really are good at the basic sports, you know, athletics, swimming, for instance, I think that, you know, we can't call ourselves that. And the ones that we're, you know, at the top, it's very difficult to keep at the top. You know, badminton, we've seen that. Look, even Indonesia is now slipping in badminton. The squash boys and girls, the squash boys are, you know, still up there, trying to get up there, but the girls have always been up there since Nicole David, and they're doing really well. Cricket does go up and down. At the moment, we're doing well in terms of admin and management of the game, but our, you know, the recent performances, you know, really we have to do much better in you know, the international side, and I think you know, each sport is different. I think they have to, you know, see, each sport has to look at how they you know, they survive and get better. So until, you know, until you get people in the stands, for instance, you watch a Premier League match here, you know, a Malaysian Premier League match, and the crowds just are not there. You know, not like in Europe, where you just, you know, even the second division side would have an absolutely packed house. So, you know, we like sports, but we're a bit more armchair, you know, we're from the armchair rather than getting down to it, so, and watching it. So, and helping out, and a lot is where it starts at school. Everything starts at school. I think we all know that. If you go around a weekend in Malaysia, the school grounds are empty at weekends, empty during school holidays. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs, but when you look at it, you know, they are probably, you know, only used about 200 days out of, you know, whatever, 356 days. So it's hardly, underutilization is the thing, and until, you know, that happens, it's you know, we have to, you know, the community has to start it though. Sports always starts with the community. So I keep, you know, telling all these national associations or state associations, waiting, you know, money from heaven. I said, it's not going to come. The best money you can get is from your own community, the people, the parents of the kids that are playing, you know, and the owners of the grounds of within your community, within your area. They're going to allow the grounds to be utilized, or all the facilities to be utilized. The local authority has got to have the same thinking, that, you know, their KPI should not be whether how many weddings they have a month. They should be thinking of how many hours of sports and other activities do they have in the month. So I think that yeah, government building, you know, more and more facilities in a way helps, but it doesn't help when they're not managed to the full and they have the wrong objective. You know, it's just not a once off. It should be built for, you know, for posterity.
Well, you've certainly done your best with Sport Excel and one or two others, but what do you think, we'll wrap up now, but what do you think is your greatest achievement?
Oh gosh, I'll tell you, and it's probably in education. I think that College Tuanku Ja'afar, together with Sport Excel, it's funny that it's almost in the same year that you know, they were both founded in the early 90s, and to me it was you know, heaven sent opportunity, because my father was building, had bought this Staffield country estate, a rubber estate, and was building a 36-hole golf course. And we decided, Bill and I, my brother and I, we wanted to build a boarding school, run on, you know, King's School Canterbury lines, because we saw that, you know, the education, there was nothing like that here. Malay College, yes, but there's nothing real international boarding school. So we decided to take, you know, 75 acres from that land. So the poor golf course only got 27 holes instead of 36. And then we built this school 100% from private sector funding, no government at all. And I had to get the license from Dr. Mahathir, and he just said, oh, go to Labuan. I said, no, Doc, I cannot. All my people, my market is all in KL area, and it's not in Labuan. And that we already have the land. Then what shall we do with Labuan? Mahathir asked me, well, I'm thinking I'm very clever, make it into offshore tax haven. And so explained to him about, you know, Hong Kong going off to the British in 1997, you know, and I think it probably needs another one in the area. This is me just trying to be clever. And next thing I know, I'm being called into Minister of Finance's office. Daim Zainuddin throws me this piece of paper and says, what's this all about? And I said to him, oh, it's just an idea I had, because it said, from PM to FM, Tunku Imran says Labuan should be a tax haven. Please action. Mahathir Mohamad. So anyway, I had to go, and I said, oh well, just an idea. Well, you better write me a paper. So I called in all the tax experts desperately, free lunch at the Selangor Club. They all came from Srini Mudhal to, you know, all the ones from Pricewaterhouse or whatever. And they wrote up this beautiful paper about tax haven, how you open it, all the laws are there, and it's after 1 year, it came out exactly the same as these guys had written it. Of course, during that 1 year, they set up a task force of 2 people in the Ministry of Finance who went around every Cook Islands, British Virgin Islands, Monaco, to check out the tax haven. And so we built a college, Tuanku Ja'afar. It's been a huge success. Recently, it's been voted the best boarding school in the world, outside of UK and the USA. So that's an enormous kudos. Everything that the money we make is goes back into the school. There's no dividend for anyone. And it's growing. It's over 1,000 students. We've paid off all the debenture holders that came in to help us, except for 2, I think, who don't want to be paid. because they prefer to stay in, and that's it. I mean, that and Sport Excel, of course. This Yayasan Kecermalangan Sukan Malaysia, this foundation for Malaysian sporting excellence, which just helps the best players in Malaysia to get even better. They're giving them much more activity amongst the peers and bringing in some foreign element into it. So they're both simple concepts, but well run, and I'm very proud of that.
Well, that's quite an achievement in itself, isn't it? Thank you very much, Tunku, for giving us an absolutely fascinating rundown on your life and really what has been a great piece of history. And I think that's a very worthy addition to the Living History Project. Thank you again.
Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you, Living History Project.